Here we are, a couple of minutes early, I guess. Hey, how are you? It's nice to see all of you here today on this wonderfully wet in New London, New Hampshire. This wonderfully wet and cool summer day, the 22nd of July, 2020, in the middle of coronavirus time. When will it ever end? I think it'll be when people start to wear masks and wash their hands on a regular basis. Anyway, today we have got the end of the story. The story that I started 3 weeks ago, because we had 2 weeks where, actually probably longer ago than that. 3 or 4 weeks ago this was. We're going to finish this story, the one that we started. I've got all the artwork sorted out. We're going to do it a little bit differently today. Today, instead of having them all folded up and just pulling them out of the hat, boom, take that off. What I'm going to do is, what I've done is, I've actually looked at the pictures that people have sent to me, and I have added those to the story that I already started to create, and I've actually kind of like not written it, but like thrown some ideas down, so that way it does kind of make a coherent story, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Because there was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to like tie this in with the other pieces of artwork that were sent to me. And I think this is going to be a really good story to end this summer series, or this COVID-19 series, as the summer starts to take off in other ways. And I no longer have the time to do this. So I'm afraid to say this is going to be the last one of my Wednesday stories for probably for the rest of the summer. And then when school picks up or doesn't pick up in the fall, I'll revisit and see how things are going. So I hope you are all well. I hope you are having lots and lots of fun. Do you like my tie? Cock-a-doodle-oo! It's time for stew. Once upon a time, a very long time ago. Oh, hey, Russell. You thought I was going to start a story then, didn't you? But no, I am not going to start a story. Not just yet. And thank you, all of you, for your artwork that you've sent in. I got to be a big shout out, actually, to Kristen Langley and her cohorts, and a shout out to Mara up in Scotland, who has been really good at sending me stuff. But a massive thank out to Miss Jessica Robinson, who is freaking awesome in sending me stuff, and also Joey Talbot, who has been awesome in sending me stuff. But most of all, Mr. Liam, who has sent me some really good. I'm going to find one of his pictures from last week. It was this one, wasn't it? It was a kitsune. That's one of his pictures. That's going to be in this story again as I do a recap. So oh, and Renee Badger's picture is also going to be in this. Hi, Miss Minnie. How you doing? It's good to see everybody here. You got here just in time. Tra-la-la. So the first story I'm going to tell you. Oh, I was going to do that, and then I changed my mind, didn't I? I was going to do the cock-a-doodle-oo, it's time for stew, come on inside. Should I do that story? Kind of started it already, so I shouldn't I? All right, then. So that's what's going to happen. Once upon a time, a very, very long time ago, when all the animals spoke the same language, and people could understand it too, in those really, really long ago times, there was a rooster, and all he liked to do was cock-a-doodle-oo! Morning, noon, and night. You know, he'd have a few hours rest, but he'd be up way before the sun. He's like cock-a-doodle-oo! Cock-a-doodle! All the way through the day. Cock-a-doodle-oo! Excuse me. Excuse me. I'll be fine. Cock-a-doodle-oo! In the evening, and even when the moon had risen and was high in the sky, that rooster was cock-a-doodle-ooing, and it drove people crazy. And they thought he was lazy because that's all it did. And so they threw him out of town. Go on, off you go. Yeah, that's what they did. They just chucked him out. They said, "No, we don't want you anymore. You're just lazy, and we're fed up. We're done with it." But he wasn't the only one. No, because there was Toad too. No, Toad, Toad, fly, fly. Oh, ladybug, ladybug. Oh, mosquito. There he was, and all he did was hop and eat. And it drove people crazy because they thought that he was lazy. And so they said, "No, go on, scram, go, be gone." And so he left as well. And then there was Miss Popeyes. Miss Popeyes the grasshopper. And she, all she would do was she would just dance. La 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 la. And all she did all day long was dance. And it drove people crazy because they thought that she was lazy. And so they kicked her out as well. Now, because the three of them were together, they thought, well, you know what we could do? There's an old unused farm all the way out of town. And what we could do is we could actually take over that farm and look after it ourselves. And so that's what they did. That's what they did. They made their way to that farm. And they started working on it. They started putting it back together. Now, Mr. Rooster, with his big sharp talons, he started to plough the field. Cock-a-doodle-dooing, ploughing the field, la-di-da, ploughing the field, and ploughed the field. And then there was Toad. Once the fields were tilled and they were nice, he was in the house before. He was in the house helping Miss Popeyes fix up the farmhouse. He came outside and he's like, oh, plant the seed, boom, plant the seed, boom, plant the seed, boom, plant the seed, boom. And Miss Popeyes was then left inside the house to finish up straightening the doors, painting the walls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what she was doing. And so there they were. Things were working out well. The two lads out in the fields working hard, making the crops grow, and Miss Popeyes inside making sure that everything was running smoothly on the inside of the farm. And then one day, Miss Popeyes felt that she'd had enough. She was doing the dishes at lunchtime. I'm fed up of Mr. Rooster with his cock-a-doodle-doing and that slimy old Mr. Toad. Fed up I am. They're out there in the sun all day enjoying themselves while I'm inside doing all the hard work, the dishes and the cooking and the vacuum cleaning and the painting and scraping the paint off the windows, because Mr. Toad is not a very good painter, I will have to say that. And she suddenly realised, I'm not just fed up, I'm tired of it. And I'm not only tired of it, I'm sick and tired. That's it, I'm sick and tired. I'm very sick. I'm very sick. I think I need to go to bed. And Mr. Toad heard her and said, Are you all right there, Miss Popeyes? No, I'm sick. I need to go to bed. Oh. I should have a mask on, shouldn't I? But I don't have one here. Shh, don't tell anyone. So there she was. You go upstairs to bed, Miss Popeyes, and I'll look after the house. Yes, you go up to look after yourself. Get better. Oh, thank you. And she hopped up the stairs and down the corridor and into her room. And there she pulled back the covers, nice fresh linen sheets. And she lay down in the bed and, oh, Mr. Toad? Yep. Can I have a glass of water, please? Water? Okay. And he got a glass of water and up the stairs and down the corridor to a room. Downstairs he went, finished off the chores that he was going to do inside before going back outside to help Mr. Rooster. And there's Miss Popeyes again. Mr. Toad! Yep. Can I have a sandwich, please? Yup, sandwich coming up. Cucumber with the crust cut off. Crust's gone. Cucumber in. Okay. And he made it, and up he went, and down the corridor, gave her the sandwich. And then he went downstairs and finished off the chores. And it went on like that for a day or two, with Toad being inside, Mr. Frog being inside, and Rooster being outside, and Miss Popeyes in bed. And Toad was working harder and harder, doing more work outside as well as inside. And Miss Popeyes would be, Mr. Toad, yep. Can I have a magazine, please? Magazine, yep. Oh, Mr. Toad, yep. Can I have a book, please? A book? Yep, yep. Mr. Toad? Yep. Can I have a glass of water? Or maybe some lemonade? Could you make me some marmalade? Lemonade. And he was getting really kind of fed up. And because he was working so hard, he decided that he needed to take a break. We all know how that feels right now, right? It's like, I need to take a break before my brains go poof. And so he decided to take a break. And he went into the barn. And he's looking around the barn, and he found this wooden hoop. This wooden hoop, and he thought, oh, rim. He's walking around looking at this rim. Oh, rim. Oh, skin. Oh, skin on rim. And he took the skin, and he started to get some tacks and with a hammer, put these tacks on it. And he started to make himself this rim with a skin. And then he got a piece of wood and he attached it. And then he found some wires and he attached those. And he'd made himself a rinky-dink little banjo. And he started playing ding-a-ding-ding-ding, all sorts of different tunes. And he found that he was really rather good at it. He had an inherent natural talent to play the banjo. And we all know the banjo jokes. We'll leave those alone. And there he was. He went up onto the porch. He started playing the banjo. And he heard this tapping sound. He said, whoa, tapping. Wow, what be that? And he started looking at the banjo, trying to figure out what it was on the banjo that was making all this noise. And when he stopped playing, the tapping stopped. Oh, very strange. He started playing the banjo again. And he's like, no, there's that tapping sound again. He stopped, and the tapping stopped. He shook the banjo. It didn't make any sound. He looked at all the joints and made sure that they're all tight. Strange. And so he started to play the banjo again. Ding, 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 ding. And he heard the tapping. And he listened very carefully. And he followed the sound of the tapping from on the porch to inside the house. Strange. And he followed the sound down the hallway. Ooh, passing strange. Up the stairs. Very strange. And he played quieter and quieter as he followed the sound until he came up to Miss Popeye's bedroom door. Now this, like I said, was an old farmhouse. And, you know, these old wooden houses, sometimes you get those cracks in the panels in the doors, right? Oh, Mr. Toad, he put his black eye up against one of the cracks and he peered in. And you know what he saw? He saw Miss Popeyes dancing to the sound of his banjo. Look, bouncing around the room. He couldn't believe it. Ding, 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 ding. She's not sick. She's not sick at all. She's well. I'm going to tell Mr. Rooster. And so he went and told Mr. Rooster out in the field. What? It's about Miss Popeyes. She's not sick. She's not sick. Well, that's marvelous news. She can help us work again. No, that's not what I meant. I meant she's never been sick. She's having a son. What? Said Rooster. You wait until I get my talons on her. No. You wait until you come in for supper. I'll be playing my banjo. You play the banjo. I just discovered it. It's a new thing for me. Apparently, I'm very good at it. Anyway, she was dancing to it. That's how I found out she wasn't sick. So I'll play the banjo on the porch, and you follow the tip-tap, and you see for yourself. I will. And so they both went back to work. Mr. Toad made supper, and then when supper was ready, he called out. And Mr. Rooster replied, Here I come, cock-a-doodle-doo, ready for my stew. And he made his way towards the farmhouse. And there was Mr. Toad. Dig-a-ding-ding-ding-ding, dig-a-ding-ding, dig-a-dig-a-dig-a-dig-a-ding. And Rooster heard the sound of the tapping. Strange. And he followed the sound of the tapping inside the house. Passing strange. And he made his way up the stairs. Very strange indeed. And Mr. Rooster followed the sound all the way up to Miss Popeye's bedroom door. And he peered in through the crack. Very, very strange. Miss Rooster was doing a pirouette over the bed to land on the other side perfectly Well, he took his talons and pow, 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 knocked on the door. Oh, just wait a moment, she said. Wait a moment, I'm not decent. She jumped into a bed and pulled the covers up. Oh, you can come in now. Mr. Rooster opened up the door and walked in. So, how are you feeling today, Miss Popeyes? Oh, a little bit better. Maybe you should see a doctor. Oh, no, I'm not sure if I should or not. No, I wonder how you're very sweaty. Oh, yes, I was just about to call Mr. Toad for a damp cloth. I seem to have a fever. And your breathing is very rapid. Oh, yes, I think I'm having an asthma attack. Oh, I think you're pulling my leg. And Mr. Toad's leg, too. Whatever do you mean? I think I might not have stew for supper tonight. I think I might have a little bit of grasshopper, Miss Popeyes. Mr. Rooster, you would never. Well, Mr. Rooster did, right there and then. He used his talons to rip down the covers, and he pounced at her. Well, Miss Popeyes leapt up. Mr. Rooster, how dare you? Mrs. Popeyes, how dare you? Oh, I'm going to get you. Peck, 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 peck. Oh, Mr. Rooster, stop that right now. And they ran around the room, jumping over the bed. Around and around they went until she dove out of the room. And there was Mr. Rooster following her, chasing after down the stairs. Peck, 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 peck. Oh, stop it, Mr. Rooster, stop it. Peck, 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 peck. Oh, stop it. And they ran and ran outside of the house. Mr. Toad tried to get her with his tongue, but he missed. He kept playing the banjo as he watched this play out. On and on they ran through the yard until Mr. Rooster, his talons caught on a root that was sticking out of the ground and big pile of rooster dust. Yeah, there's rooster dust as well as lion dust. And Miss Grasshopper leapt into the tall grasses. Mr. Toad and Rooster went to look for her. They looked very hard indeed for her. But she was able to hide herself in the grass. And that's where she's been hiding ever since. And that's why you see chickens, if you leave them alone in a place of grass, they tear up all the grass, roots and all, because they're still looking for Miss Popeyes, even to this day. The end. I don't know about you, but I'm thirsty. I think I'm going to take a drink. Oh, silly me. Wrong one. Ah, dear. Let's try that again, shall we? So, who have we here now? Oh, we've got Ms. Fitch. Yay! I have all my sound on, but getting no sound. Is anybody else having it? Toad Faces to Die For. Mr. Toad, can I get a CD of... Yes. Assignment, please. Very funny, Scott. It's good to see you all. I don't know why you're not getting my sound. It's on. Let me do another sound check. Does everybody else hears me? I know my face is to die for. We got 16 viewers. I'm sure if I got all the way through a story, then I would have lost everybody. Let's have a look. Default speakers. No, let's do this. Do that. The microphone. Yes, the microphone is picking me up. I'm going to test my speakers. Well, okay. That's weird. I don't know why you're not hearing me. I'll get it on YouTube. Yeah, other people can hear me. I don't know what's going on. Zozo. That's a cool name. Who's Zozo? Go Zozo. I like that. Oh, it's not me. I'm glad it's not me. All right. So it's 17 minutes past. We still got time. I'm going to do another story. I'm going to do Solomon and the Bee, because I've not done that one before here. So Solomon, how many people do not know who King Solomon is? It's quite frightening, actually. When I go into schools and I ask that question, there are quite a lot of hands. In fact, I would say the majority of people there, and I'm not excluding teachers with this, the majority of people have no idea who King Solomon was, which to me is kind of crazy. I mean, I'm not like a big, church-going fella. My background was rather interesting growing up, shall we say, when it came to church and all that kind of stuff. But it's really kind of scary that people don't know who King Solomon is, because there are lots of references to him. I mean, you know, you talk about King Solomon's mines and it's like, well, who's King Solomon? He's just this dude that has these mines. Well, no! There's something special about those mines, right? Right? We have to be aware of like the cultures that come before us so that we can we can understand the references that are made today. Anyway, King Solomon was this like super smart dude. I mean, he was in the Middle East, and he was one of the smartest kings around. Now, the thing is, there was this place which was was called Sheba, right? And there was this woman who ruled Sheba, the queen of Sheba. Now, she was equally smart. Yeah, if she come from New England, they would have called her wicked smart, right? But she wasn't. She was from the Middle East. I don't know what they would call somebody out in the Middle East. Maybe frightfully intelligent. I don't know. But anyway, she was really, really smart. But she was also gobsmackingly gorgeous. You know, like drop dead beautiful. You know, people be like, "Whoa, she's so pretty," and they always forgot about how smart she was. And this really rattled her cage. It really upset her. And she heard about this, oh, King Solomon's so smart, blah, blah, blah. Well, what about me, she thought? Well, I'm going to give him a test. And she did. She had her artisans make some flowers. Now, these artisans had to make these flowers look incredibly lifelike. And all these craftspeople started to work on this project. And she oversaw it. She went and made suggestions. She had ideas of how they could make the flowers look perfectly real. And once they had done that, she looked at them and said, now they have to move as if they're real. And she worked with these artisans to come up with something that looked and moved as if it were real. Now you have to bear in mind that in these long, long, long ago days, there were no plastics. There were metals and woods, fibers, material. That was what they had to work with. And they did. They worked and worked and worked. And she and her artisans came up with these flowers that looked and moved perfectly. The petals looked as if they were real. And when she touched them, they felt real. But now they needed to smell real. And she and her artisans worked on it until they created the perfect perfumes that would linger and stay with those flowers, those artificial flowers, those fake flowers. And then once she had done this, she sent messengers to King Solomon to say that she would like to pay a visit. And so when the invitation was accepted, she got together a huge caravan, not an oversized Dodge caravan. They didn't have those in those days. No, this was a caravan that was made up of horses and camels, and all of these creatures were laden with gifts for King Solomon, because that's what you used to do. In fact, you know, you still should do. If you visit someone, you should bring them a gift. You know, yeah, you should, like an apple, or if it's my house, a bar of chocolate, and not Hershey's. Don't even step over the threshold if it's only Hershey's you've got. It's got to be real chocolate. Okay. Tootsie Rolls, that's not chocolate, that's putty. That's edible. It's just a coinky dink. Anyway, so there she was. She had this huge caravan of these camels and horses loaded up with these amazing gifts, which she was taking to King Solomon. And in amongst those things were those artificial flowers, those fake flowers. Well, she arrived at King Solomon's palaces and was greeted with all the pomp and circumstance that one royal should give to another. Well, she asked her servants to go out and find the exact same flowers that they'd made copies of, the fake flowers. And she asked them to make a bouquet that looked exactly the same as the fake flowers, while she wined and dined with the king. And the next morning, she asked for an audience with the king, which she was given. And when she arrived, she had these two bouquets. Now, his throne room was huge, these big arched windows which let the light and the breeze flow through. It was remarkable. Tapestries and silks decorated hung down over the walls. It was the most glorious palace ever. When she walked up before King Solomon and bowed, and he bowed to her, and she said, I have in my hands 2 bouquets, 2 bunches of flowers. And I would like you, King Solomon, to decide which one is fake and which one is real. For working with my artisans, my craftspeople, we have constructed a bouquet of fake flowers, and I'm not sure if you could tell the difference." And she stood before the king and held them out. Well, the king looked very carefully at both bouquets of flowers. "May I touch them?" "Well, yes, of course." And he reached out and he felt the petals and the leaves and the stems and the thorns. And they all felt real on both bouquets. "May I smell them?" "Yes, you may." And so he leant forward and smelt the bouquets. They both smelt real. He puzzled over this for a great deal of time, not sure of which one was real and which one was fake. And just then, through one of those open windows, a bee came. Now, the Queen of Sheba, she had been looking very carefully at the king's eyes, looking where he put his hands, looking for any clue of how he might discover which was which. She didn't notice the bee. But the king, who was staring at the bouquet of flowers, did, because the bee flew into the bouquet of fake flowers, and it buzzed around a little bit, and then it came back out and it flew to the other bouquet of flowers and started buzzing around in that, and then it burrowed itself deep into those petals. And the king knew which was the real bouquet. "It is this one," said the king. "How can you tell? That they are identical, and yet you could... I knew which was which, but I can barely tell the difference, and I'm the one who made them. How is it that you could tell?" Well, the king looked at her, and he said, "Sometimes, to see the truth, you have to look very carefully and very deeply indeed." And that's the story of King Solomon and the bee. Now, it's Zoe. Hi, Zoe. How you doing? These people that like to change their names all the time on their things. "I can hear you, but I'm not very loud." That's because I'm whispering. I'll try and make myself louder by bringing my microphone closer to my face. Is that better? Seems to be a Firefox issue. Works. Oh, Safari works. Oh. Wow. I'm glad that Safari works, because we've had problems on StreamYard with Safari before as well. This is a StreamYard production type thing. I use them, and it works intermittently with Firefox. It has a lot of issues with Safari, but it works really well with Chrome. But a bit late to tell you that now, isn't it, on the last episode for the season? Sorry. So here we are. Here are all the pictures from 2 or 3 weeks ago, all the way to the most recent pictures. And like I said at the beginning, if you missed me at the beginning, this is what I said. I said that so we're going to start with the pictures all the way from like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe even 4 weeks ago, with the pictures that I was sent and used for then, and all the pictures that have been sent since then, because I haven't been able to do this for one reason or another, which is why this is going to be the last one for the summer season. But instead of folding them all up and putting them in a hat and pulling them out like I normally do, I'm doing this slightly differently. What I've done today, this morning, at about 6 o'clock in the morning, I printed off all the pictures and I was looking at them, and I've put them into, I admit that I did put them into some sort of order, but as I was looking at the pictures, they kind of fell into a story of their own. And so we're going to start the story from the beginning with the recap, and then we're going to go on. Well, it's only my last for a little while. I'll be back after the summer, I think, okay? It's just I got a lot of stuff going on that I need to get sorted out. And I don't have time to do this. This actually takes up quite a lot of time, surprisingly enough. And the projects that I've got coming up take even more time. So I need to pick and choose my projects. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. So, once upon a time, that is Julia, and that is Julia. And once upon a time, Julia was following her dad outside the house. That's her father right there, reflected in the glasses. She was following her father out, who was going to do some gardening. But it was such a gorgeous day. She was thinking, I don't really want to do gardening. I want to do something else instead. And she started looking around. And she saw this 9-tailed, can you see that? Yeah. 9-tailed kitsune. Now, if you don't know what a kitsune is a white fox that's a spirit animal. It's a spirit fox. And they come from Japan. But this one was right near Julia's house. And she'd never seen one of these before. And she was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. And very carefully, she went up and approached it and had a look at it. And the kitsune, you know what it did? It winked at her. And then it said, I think it's time for an adventure. Come with me. And it started running. And of course, if you have a kitsune say to you, let's go on an adventure, what do? You go on an adventure. Now, it seemed that this kitsune knew exactly where it was going because it led the way to this house right here. Now, this house has been transported all the way from Scotland, and it was drawn by Felicity. The kitsune was drawn by Liam, and as I said, Julia did the picture of Julia because it was a self-portrait. And outside the house was Felicity the cat. And it seemed that the kitsune knew the cat. And after everyone was introduced to everybody else, they took off once more. On and on and on they went on this beautiful hot sunny day until they came to a pond. This pond was drawn by Althea, and the sun was reflecting in it. They stood up on a rock and looked down at the colours, which were somewhat different to how you might expect. I mean, the sky was reflected in the pool, in the pond, and the trees were reflected in the pond as well. But the colours, there was something about them. And I don't know about you, but if you're looking into water, looking down onto it, sometimes you feel like it's pulling you. And this is how it felt for the kitsune and Felicity the cat and for Julia. And they fell in. They leaned forward so far that they fell into the pond. And as they fell into the pond, it seemed that everything flipped upside down, and all of a sudden they came out and landed on the bank, which suddenly vanished along with the pool. They looked around. This was very, very puzzling to them, because not only was there no pool wherever they looked, it was not midday anymore. It was sunset. This is Renee's sunset. And Renee, and when the Kinnitsu and Julia looked at the sky, they were like, what is going on? And then they saw someone going, hello, hello, waving at them, hello. And they went over to see who this person was, because it was a friendly hello. And this person looked at them and says, oh, you're new here, aren't you? I've never seen you before. Would you like me to take you on a tour of the place? My name is Dr. Evelyn. This is Dr. Evelyn. Evelyn is the one who did this picture. Now, Liam's kitsune and Felicity, the cat, and Julia had never seen a bearded woman before. But now they were seeing one for the first time. Dr. Evelyn. Come, you must be hungry. And she led them a short distance to what at first appeared to be a food truck. This is by Emma in Fairfax, Virginia. Now, when they got there, this strange Dr. Evelyn reached behind the counter. This is Emma, by the way. Reached behind the counter, and Emma also reached behind the counter. They got some drinks and some snacks out for them. But Dr. Evelyn said, well, I'd like you to meet Emma. This is Emma right here. And here are your snacks. You must be hungry. Well, Julia was very curious, and she said, well, what is this place? This isn't a food truck at all. No, said Emma. I make dreams for children with my cat, Althea. I paint happy and wonderful images which Jacko the Raven, this is Jacko the Raven, right, there we go, there's Jacko the Raven, which Jacko the Raven take to children all over the world. Take the images, the children do, they take these images and create their own very beautiful story dreams. Come, said Dr. Evelyn. She nodded at Emma, who bent down, and Emma pulled out a pair of shoes for Julia. And then Dr. Evelyn took some fairy dust and sprinkled it on Felicity the cat. And Liam's kitsune looked up and said, well, don't I get anything? Well, no, you're magical enough. You don't need anything. Which Liam's kitsune liked a lot. Now put on the shoes. Julia put on the shoes. They were magical shoes. Dr. Evelyn then had all of them stand around in a circle. There was Dr. Evelyn, and then Julie, and then there was Felicity, Liam's kitsune, Althea, and Jacko. And Jacko was sitting on the doctor's shoulder. And then the doctor said, close your eyes and jump. And they did. And immediately, they found themselves on the back of this creature right here. It was an incredibly large creature. And all the hair on their heads, all the hair on their bodies started to stand out. Dr. Evelyn, she started to laugh. Oh, look at my beard. Her beard was sticking out as well. What's going on, said Julia. Oh, this is Voltage. Voltage is a creature who conducts electricity and can send out electricity. That's why all your hair's standing up on end. Voltage galloped with these huge, long strides, and it seemed as if they were almost flying. On and on and on they went. Look over there! Dr. Evelyn pointed. In the distance, they saw a bird, and as it got closer and closer, they realized that this bird was absolutely ginormous. It was huge. And it flew alongside them, singing the most beautiful song. Oh, that's one of my favorite birds, said Dr. Evelyn. It's a striped, greater spotted, hatted Ryan. The bird looked at them and sung some more. I know, we're going there now. The striped, greater spotted, hatted Ryan flew off, singing. Well, Voltage went in the opposite direction, and on it galloped, until they came to a great tree. There was a fairy on the branch of this great tree, and Voltage lay down so that everyone could get off. And Felicity and Julia and the kitsune, Liam's kitsune the fox, and the fairy started playing in amongst the branches of the tree. Dr. Evelyn smiled. She reached into her pocket and took out some food for Voltage and fed the creature, whilst the children, the animals played. And then Dr. Evelyn said, it's time to go. Well, the fairy immediately rushed in amongst the branches very quickly, and it came back with a seed. And it gave, not a seed, it came with a seed for each of the people. One for the cat, one for Julia, one for the kitsune. And then they all climbed back onto Voltage's back. And off they rode again. As they were riding back from this tall, tall tree, Julia said, it was so tall, it looked like it could almost reach the moon. Oh, that it can. That tree can, on certain specific nights, reach all the way up to the moon. They rode back to where the dream truck was. And they thanked Emma and everyone else for the time that they had had. They looked about and they saw that it was no longer night, no longer sunset time, but it was actually night. They said goodbye to Emma and Althea and Jacko, and Dr. Evelyn pointed to the sky. The sun had set a while ago and the moon was high up there. Dr. Evelyn took them to the shore of the pond, which had suddenly reappeared. And waiting on the banks, there was a kelpie. A kelpie is a great horse that rides in the water. Now, usually kelpies can be quite scary creatures. Sometimes they can be very dangerous creatures. They'll lure people into waters, and these people sometimes drown. But Dr. Evelyn, she made sure that everyone that was climbing on the back of the kelpie knew that this kelpie and every single creature in her kingdom was safe and friendly. and the Kelpie, it took them over the waters, and they laughed. They laughed so hard, the spray hitting them on the faces, the spray making their clothes wet, until they came to the bank, the far bank, where the rock was that they'd fallen from originally. Well, they thanked the Kelpie for the ride, and as they looked around, they realized that it wasn't night anymore, but it was midday. And so they started making their way back to Julia's house. The cat stopped off at her house, said goodbye. Felicity said goodbye, and she went inside for some tea. Before she went indoors, she dropped the seed on the ground. And Liam's Kitsune and Julie, they made their way back to Julie's house. And there they planted the seeds in the back garden. And then they went their ways. Julie back indoors, and the Kitsune back to wherever it had come from. And the trees grew together. At first, they were much smaller than Julia, but they got taller and taller than Julia, and they got higher and higher until they reached the very heavens. Well, what happened? What happened indeed? I got the wrong piece of paper here. The seeds grew into the trees, and they grew up until Julia and the Kitsune would sometimes play in amongst the branches. And on very special nights, on certain occasions, Liam's Kitsune, Felicity, Julia and her friends and neighbors, Renee, Ethan, Ryan, Olivia, Emma, Althea, and all the other children who are here or have been here, they found that they could climb those two trees. And on very special nights, they could even reach the moon. The end. Fresh bread? Are you kidding me? You can't say things like that when we're all virtual. That's just wrong. That is so wrong. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the stories. I hope you've enjoyed this weekly little foray into imagination and crazy worlds that we live in, and what crazy worlds live in our minds as well, like that last story. You know, it's imagination is something that we should all try and keep hold of. It's not something that we always use, and just like any other skill set, if you don't use it, you lose it. So what I want you to do with your kids is to sit them down, and I want them to imagine what that tree looked like. Imagine all the different places that they might have found in that great tree. I want you to sit with them and think of all the creatures, real or imagined, that they might have seen in those great trees. What other plants and creatures they would have seen in the land of Dr. Evelyn. And I want you to draw them or write them down. Maybe even create a story of your very own. And then share it with your friends. Because that's how stories live. They live by being shared. And so keep sharing them. Well, honestly, I really hope you've enjoyed the stories today. And none of these stories are my stories. These stories are old, ancient stories, and they belong to everyone. So if you liked any of the stories that I told today, then take them and share them, okay? Now, that last story, that was mine, all right? But you helped create that story with your pictures. And you can still do this. You can do this with your family and your friends. You can all draw something and fold it up and put it into a hat or a bowl or a cup or a hole in the ground. And then you pull it out one by one. And you can not only just like do it on your own, like have one person telling a story, but you can pull something out and start a story. And then the next person in the circle can also pick something out and then start telling a story. But there are certain rules to this story. You cannot destroy what has come before. You cannot undo what has come before. You just have to keep saying yes and. Okay? Thanks for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll all see each other in person on the flip side, right? Take care, everyone. Imagine your own stories. Have fun. and be safe. Wear your masks, wear gloves, take lots of sanitizer everywhere, and be well. See ya.